I never thought much about the corner cafe near the bus stop. It wasn't anything special. Two chipped tables outside, windows that fogged up on humid mornings, and coffee that was never as good as it smelled. But it was quiet, and that mattered. Most mornings, I'd sit by the window with my headphones half in, pretending to scroll my phone. Truth was, I wasn't looking for music or messages. I was just passing time. My friends texted less these days. People moved on, and I hadn't yet. That's when I first noticed her. Noticed, as in, really saw her. She came in just before 9, like clockwork. Sometimes with grocery bags, sometimes still wearing her work badge. Mid-40s, maybe. Dark hair that curled softly at her shoulders. The kind of presence that didn't need attention, but always had it anyway. I knew her, technically. She was Ryan's mom. I'd been to their house a handful of times back in high school. Pizza nights, birthday parties. Back then, she was just someone's mom, offering sodas and making sure nobody tracked mud on the carpet. But now it felt different. She smiled at me once when the barista messed up my order and I had to wait. Just a small, knowing smile. Like she could see the patience draining out of me. I remember fumbling, trying to return it, but mine came out crooked. She didn't seem to mind. After that, we started, I don't know, orbiting each other. Some mornings she'd sit a table over, pull out a paperback. Other days, she'd ask if the seat across from me was taken, even when the place was empty. I'd nod, pretending like it didn't matter. But it did. It mattered in the way her eyes lingered a half-second longer than they needed to. In the way I caught myself folding and unfolding the same napkin just to give my hand something to do. Still going for the black coffee? She asked one morning, sliding into the chair across from me. I blinked, surprised she remembered. Oh yeah? Creature of habit, I guess. She tilted her head. I call it loyalty. Or maybe laziness. The corner of her mouth tugged up, and I laughed before I could stop myself. It felt easy, too easy. Like we weren't separated by years, by unspoken rules, by the fact that she should have just been a friendly face from my past. The silence after the laugh stretched, but it wasn't heavy. She sipped her coffee. I pretended to check my phone, though the screen was blank. My chest felt restless, like it wanted to say something reckless just to see how it sounded. Instead, I asked, still reading the same book? She turned the cover so I could see. Some old novel, edges worn soft. Third time through, she said. It's different when you're older. Everything is. I didn't answer, but my eyes caught hers. For a second, it felt like she was speaking about more than the book. The cafe's clock ticked too loud, the air between us thick with something unnamed. Then my phone buzzed. A text lit the screen. Not from a friend. From her. I hadn't even realized she had my number. This stays between us, it read. I looked up. She was standing now, slipping her bag over her shoulder, calm as if she hadn't just rearranged the ground beneath me. She left with that same small smile, knowing, patient, and just out of reach. And I sat there, napkin crumpled in my hand, heart beating in a rhythm I couldn't ignore. Part 2. Expanding the conflict I told myself not to read into it. The text, her timing, the look she gave me before she left. I told myself it was probably nothing. Maybe she'd meant it as a joke, or maybe I'd misunderstood altogether. But I couldn't shake it. The next morning, I avoided the cafe. I walked past it, headphones in, heart pushing me forward like if I just kept moving, I could outrun whatever I'd felt yesterday. But by the following week, I was back at my usual seat. And she was there. She didn't mention the text. Neither did I. Instead, she set down 2 cups of tea between us, without asking, and slid one across the table. Coffee's going to eat your stomach alive if you keep at it. I raised an eyebrow. And tea won't. Not this kind. She leaned back, folding her hands around her own cup. My mother used to make it when I couldn't sleep. Too many thoughts, not enough rest. Something in her tone softened. It wasn't just about tea. I tried it. Warm, earthy, nothing like the bitter coffee I kept forcing down. Not bad, I admitted. Her smile reached her eyes this time. See? You can trust me. I wanted to. That was the problem. There were reasons I shouldn't. She was Ryan's mom. She had her own life, her own history. I remembered the stories my friend used to let slip, how the divorce had been messy, how she carried the weight of keeping things together. She wasn't just some woman I'd met at a cafe. She was tied to a part of my past I wasn't supposed to cross back into. But every time she looked at me like that, steady, like she was measuring whether I'd pull away, it was harder to remember why I should resist. "You always sit here alone?" she asked, breaking the silence. "Mostly." I shrugged, staring into the tea. "I guess I like the quiet." She tilted her head, as if studying me. "Or maybe it's easier than being disappointed." The words landed heavier than I expected. I didn't know what to say, so I didn't say anything. I just let the steam from the tea fog my glasses slightly, giving me cover. We sat there like that for a while. No rush, no need to fill the space. Just the sound of spoons clinking and the hum of conversations around us. At some point, I noticed her hand resting on the table, close to mine. Not touching, just close. My fingers twitched before I even thought about it, like they wanted to erase the space. I pulled them back, pressing them into my thigh under the table. She caught the movement. A flicker passed over her face, something between amusement and understanding. Then she said softly, "Some things are better left unsaid." But her gaze lingered, and I felt it long after she stood to leave. I don't know why that moment stayed with me. Maybe because it felt like someone finally saw me. Part 3. Heightening suspense the next time we met. It wasn't in the cafe. I was walking back from the store, plastic bag digging into my fingers, when I saw her in her front yard. She was bent over a flat of flowers, dirt on her palms, hair pulled into a loose knot that didn't quite hold. She looked younger like that, unguarded. She glanced up, smiled. "You walk by here often?" I lifted the bag as proof. "Groceries." My voice cracked a little too high. "Not spying." Her laugh was soft, but it pulled something taut inside me. "Want to help?" she asked, brushing soil from her wrist. I don't know why I said yes. Maybe because it was easier than saying no. I knelt beside her, clumsy with the little trowel she handed me. The silence between us wasn't like the cafe. It was heavier, the air filled with things unsaid. She reached across me for another plant, her arm brushing mine. Barely a touch. But I froze. "You okay?" she asked, casual, as if she hadn't noticed. "Yeah, just not good at this," I muttered, stabbing the soil harder than I meant to. She smiled without looking at me. "It's not about being good. It's about paying attention." That line sat in me longer than it should have. Just then, Ryan's car pulled into the driveway. He got out, headphones around his neck, barely noticing us. He waved, distracted, muttered something about going inside. But for me, the moment split in two, before he came and after. My hands were suddenly too aware of themselves, the closeness unbearable. I stood, brushing dirt from my jeans. I started. "You don't have to run off," she said quickly. Too quickly. Then she caught herself, looked back down at the flowers, her hands slower now, more careful. I hesitated. My chest felt tight, like if I stayed, something would happen. Something I couldn't explain away. So I mumbled, "Groceries," and lifted the bag again, a flimsy shield. I left, but my steps dragged. I could feel her eyes on me, though when I turned once, she was already back to planting. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the brush of her arm, the way her voice softened when she said I didn't have to leave. And then, my phone buzzed. A message. Her. "You forgot your gloves." I stared at it. I hadn't brought gloves. My fingers hovered over the screen, useless. Every reply I typed, I erased. Finally, I just sent, "Tomorrow?" 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then nothing. The silence pressed down harder than any answer. When I saw her the next morning, back at the cafe, the air between us was charged. She slid my tea across the table like always, but her hand lingered a second longer on the cup. Our eyes met. It would have taken almost nothing. A tilt forward, one step closer. I felt my breath hitch. Her lips parted, as if. Then the barista called her name. Loud. Jarring. She pulled back, straightened, as if nothing had happened. But the moment stayed, raw and unfinished, between us. Part 4. Nearing the climax, it happened on a walk. Not planned, just timing. I was heading back from class. She was coming from the bus stop. We fell into step without deciding to. The air was cooler than usual. Early evening light stretched long across the pavement. Neither of us spoke much at first. Our footsteps did the talking, slow, steady, side by side. Finally, she asked, "You ever wonder how people see you?" I frowned. "What do you mean?" "Not who you think you are, but who you are when you're not paying attention." She kept her eyes ahead, not on me. I didn't answer right away. My hands shoved deep into my pockets, heart louder than it should have been. Sometimes, I admitted. Mostly I just hope it isn't disappointing. She gave the faintest laugh. Not unkind. More like she recognized something. "You sound like you've lived more than 20 years. Sometimes I feel like it," I said, and when I finally looked at her, she was already looking back. Something in that silence cracked open. We sat on a bench near the corner store, the kind of place where teenagers usually gathered with sodas and snacks. It was empty now. Just us, twilight pressing close. She folded her arms, then unfolded them, restless. "You know, when Ryan's dad left, people kept telling me I was strong. Like it was a compliment. But it never felt that way. It felt like they were saying, 'You'll manage.'" "Alone." Her voice caught, barely, but I noticed. She exhaled, looked away quickly, as though she hadn't meant to say that much. "I don't think you're alone," I said, softer than I meant. Her eyes flicked to mine, sharp, searching. "Are not." The words lodged in my chest. I wanted to tell her what I'd been carrying, that I thought about her more than I should, that her messages replayed in my head until sleep blurred them. That when she brushed against me, I felt it hours later. Instead, I said nothing. My throat locked. She leaned forward, elbows on her knees, her voice quieter now. "This shouldn't be happening." "I know." My reply came too fast, too raw. Her fingers twisted together, unclasped, then rested flat against her thigh. A single nervous rhythm tapped out. "Do you ever think about it?" I froze. Every instinct screamed to ask, "Think about what?" But I knew. I knew exactly what she meant. My mouth opened, closed. Her gaze was steady, but beneath it, I could see the flicker of fear, like she'd just risked more than she should have. I swallowed hard, my pulse stuttering. All the time, I whispered. For a moment, the world narrowed to nothing but the space between us. Her breath slowed. Her hand twitched, like it might reach across the bench. And then, she looked away. The quiet stretched, aching. Her voice was barely there when she finally asked, "So, what do we do now?" Part 5. The twist after that night on the bench. I thought things would shift. Not explode, not unravel, just move forward. Even in small ways. A glance held longer, a question answered more honestly. Something. But the next morning, she wasn't at the cafe. One day turned into two. Then a week. I told myself she was busy, tied up with work, errands, whatever. But the space she left behind was louder than her presence ever was. I kept showing up, same table, same cup of coffee I didn't finish. Waiting without saying I was waiting. Then, finally, I saw her again. Not at the cafe, not even walking by. At the grocery store. Her cart half full, hair pulled back. No trace of the warmth I'd gotten used to. I raised a hand, instinct. But she saw me first, and turned into the next aisle. It stung more than I wanted to admit. I followed anyway, caught up near the shelves stacked with pasta boxes. "Hey." She froze. Took a breath, placed a box in her cart too carefully. "Hi." The word was clipped, practiced. "You've been." I started, but her expression stopped me. Tired. Guarded. "I've been busy," she said. Too fast. I nodded, though I didn't believe her. The silence swelled, awkward in a way it had never been before. Before I could think, I asked, "Did I do something wrong?" Her eyes flicked to mine, sharp, almost defensive, then softened. "No, you didn't." But she didn't offer more. Just pushed her cart forward, leaving me with a hollow ache and the sound of wheels rolling away. That night, I lay in bed, phone in hand. I typed, "I miss our talks." Deleted it. Typed, "Did I say too much?" Deleted that too. Finally, I just wrote, "Are you okay?" I stared at the screen until the letters blurred. Then I locked the phone and set it face down. I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt paused, like life forgot to finish the sentence. A few days later, Ryan called. Just casual, asking if I wanted to come by for a game night. It had been years since I'd stepped foot in his house. My chest tightened as I heard his voice, picturing her somewhere in the background. I made up an excuse, hung up, and then I didn't go to the cafe. The seat by the window stayed empty. Part 6. The climax. It wasn't the cafe or the store this time. It was her doorstep. I hadn't planned it. I just walked by, same street I'd walked 100 times, but my feet slowed when I saw her porch light still on. A soft, warm square in the dark. I told myself to keep going. Instead, I stopped. Stood there too long, bag of groceries hanging at my side, palms damp. Then I climbed the steps and knocked, before I could change my mind. The door opened a crack. She looked surprised, then wary. "It's late." "I know." My voice was rougher than I meant. "I just needed to see you." For a second, I thought she might close the door. Instead, she let it fall open wider. I stepped inside, into the smell of tea and something faintly sweet. The kitchen light was on, soft yellow. She turned, busying herself with mugs on the counter, like she needed her hands to have something to do. "You shouldn't be here." "I know," I said again, quieter. The silence stretched. My heart beat like a drum against my ribs. I wanted to fill it, but nothing came out. Just watching her shoulders tense as she poured water into the kettle. "Finally," she said, "Ryan's coming home more often now. He's been asking why I'm always out." There it was, the line we'd both been circling. "I'm not trying to make trouble," I said. My throat tightened. "I just don't want to lose this. Whatever this is." Her back stayed to me, but her hand stilled on the counter. She breathed in, slow, as if weighing every word. "Do you know what you're asking?" I stepped closer, not touching her, just close enough to feel the pull of her presence. "I'm not asking anything. I'm telling you. I think about you. Every day. And if I walk away now, I'll regret it." Her head bowed. For a moment, I thought she might cry. Instead, she laughed, soft, almost bitter. "You're 20. You have no idea what regret feels like." "Then teach me," I whispered. That made her turn. Finally, her eyes met mine, searching, unsteady. The air between us was heavy with everything we'd never said. I thought she'd push me back. Instead, she just let the quiet sit. Then, in a voice barely above a breath, "You scare me." The truth of it hit harder than any rejection. "Why?" I asked. "Because I want this too," she said. Her hand trembled against the counter, then fell to her side. "And I don't know what happens if I stop pretending I don't." We stood there, two people balanced on the edge of something that could shatter either of us. I didn't reach for her, didn't kiss her, just let the silence hold us in place. Then, slowly, she let out a breath. Her shoulders eased, her eyes softened, and she said, almost like a surrender, "Okay." Part 7. The conclusion. It didn't happen all at once. Not with a kiss in a kitchen or some sudden collapse into certainty. It happened the way mornings change, slowly, almost unnoticeably, until one day you realize the light has shifted. Weeks passed. The distance between us stretched, then softened. I stopped waiting at the cafe every day, but sometimes, 8:47 a.m., like clockwork, I'd still find myself glancing at the door. And sometimes, she was there. Not every morning. Just enough. We didn't talk about what we were. Maybe we didn't need to. A shared cup of tea instead of black coffee. A walk that lingered too long, ending at her gate, both of us pausing before saying goodnight. A text, simple and ordinary. "Home yet?" But the ordinary became the weight of it. How it filled the empty spaces without asking for permission. The bench was ours again, though neither of us said so. Some evenings we sat there, saying nothing, just listening to the world hum around us. She'd fold her arms, then let them fall loose, brushing the side of my hand. I never pulled away anymore. Life didn't suddenly brighten. She still had work that wore her down. I still drifted, half unsure what I was doing with myself. But there was steadiness now, like we'd built a small corner of quiet between us, where neither of us had to pretend. One night, sitting on that same bench, she said, "You ever notice how people pass by without looking? Like they don't even see what's right in front of them?" I glanced at her, smiling faintly. "I notice." Her eyes met mine. No rush, no question lingering behind them this time. Just recognition. Just the kind of look you carry with you after the moment's gone. And maybe that's all it was supposed to be. Not fireworks, not grand declarations, but something lived. Something real. I don't remember the exact words after that. Only the feel of her shoulder against mine. The way her hand finally settled in my open palm, like it had been circling the space between us for years, waiting for the right time. Not perfect, not easy, but ours. And that was enough. Did this story stay with you? If it did, let me know below. What kind of quiet, real love stories do you want to hear next?